Cholesterol. Can diet control it as effectively as drugs? We'll check it out on this edition of McDougall MD. Our special guest will tell you why the right food may be your very best medicine to add years to your life. Plus, we'll go into the kitchen with my TV brother from the Waltons, John Walmsley, and we'll make some yummy, healthful brownies. You'll love them. I'm Mary McDonough, and this is McDougall MD. Hey, John.
Well, here we go again.
Here we go. What have you got for us today?
Well, Mary, I've been working on you very hard to get you to pay a little bit more attention to your diet, and
Yes.
I'm going to double team you today. I have somebody who is an expert on good nutrition. I mean, this man knows the science. He has been a pioneer. He's written the research, and I think he's going to have some very convincing things to say to you in terms of why it's important to change your diet. And also, he's going to help us debunk some of these diet book myths that are out there, some in particular that I'm interested in. With us, we have Dr. David Jenkins, and Dr. Jenkins is an MD and also a PhD in nutritional sciences, and so he's very, very qualified to talk to us.
Welcome. Come on up.
Yeah, thanks for
Welcome.
thanks for being our guest, huh, Jesse?
So go ahead, change me.
No, you got to wait. We got to do it gradually, Mary. I first became familiar with Dr. Jenkins back in about 1985 when he wrote a paper on something called the glycemic index. Now, some of you may have heard about the glycemic index because it has been the basis for a lot of popular books that say all you have to do is eat low glycemic foods, and we're going to get into this so you'll know what it means.
Okay.
And that you'll get robust health, and that's basically what it is. It's the most important thing is glycemic index. But if I remember correctly, when I read some of the letters to the editors that followed that article, you weren't quite sure what the real meaning of glycemic index was back in '85. Do you feel the same today?
I think we knew what the meaning was, but we weren't...
significance.
We weren't tremendous... Well, we thought we knew what the significance was, but we weren't tremendously happy with some of the interpretations.
Tell us what the glycemic index is.
Well,
Yes,
what the
I need to know what that
glycemic index was merely a method of characterizing different carbohydrate foods, specifically starchy foods. And what we were looking for was the rate at which these were digested in the small intestine, because we felt that the rate that you digest your food may be important in terms of the big rises and falls, possibly, that you get in nutrients in the circulation. So in other words, if you have something which goes into your intestines, is digested very rapidly, is absorbed very rapidly, you could get high rises, result in a lot of insulin secretion, and then if you're healthy...
Is that, excuse me, I'm sorry. Is that a blood sugar increase?
Blood sugar
increase. When you're saying
blood
insulin?
glucose,
Okay.
yes. So the blood glucose rises, then the insulin has to rise very quickly to cope with that. You perhaps have to secrete much more insulin than you would do normally. That's had implications in terms of diabetes and cardiovascular disease and certain cancers.
But the headlines have been things such as potatoes are worse for you than Snickers bars.
People have said that
because of the glycemic index.
Eat a Mars bar and it's better than carrots.
Yes.
Well, that's...
Why do they say that?
Well, because if you wanted to eat 5 pounds of carrots, theoretically, you could raise your blood glucose level to the same extent as you would from a Mars bar. But I think that to eat 5 pounds of well-cooked carrots is beyond the scope of most usual people at an ordinary meal. I doubt any of your audience would have 5 pounds of carrots as just part of a meal.
But you think potatoes are good food?
So I think potatoes are a good food.
And lots of diets out there now are bashing carbohydrates, saying they're bad for you. What do you feel about that?
I think that there's been a lot of concern about carbohydrate, and I've not really seen the good science, if you like, that would back that up. I think what there has been interest in is interest in some of the fats. There's always, as you know, been much more interested in fat scientifically than carbohydrate. And most recently, with the discovery of monounsaturated fat and olive oil, I think there's been a lot of interest in fats. Part of that interest is fueled by the fact that the monounsaturated fats may have antioxidant activity, and everyone's talking about antioxidants.
So, but the jury is still out as far as the carbohydrates because there's just not enough research.
Well, no. I think that would be perhaps unfair to say. I think there is a jury that's been in and cast a vote that says that if you take carbohydrates that are less processed, that are more slowly digested,
starches and vegetables,
and many traditional foods. We might talk of tabbouleh or cracked wheat that they eat in the Middle East. We might talk about parboiled rice. You might talk about the heavy German pumpernickel breads with the whole grains in them. You might talk about pasta.
We talk about them in good terms.
And we talk about them on good terms. And there's evidence that these sorts of digestion rates seem to be associated with less diabetes and less cardiovascular disease, and perhaps very importantly so.
But popular diet books would tell you the opposite.
Popular diet books, unfortunately, have got part of the message that we tried to get across and then have linked on their own particular addendum, which may not be anything that we would agree with.
They tell you potatoes are bad, they tell you bread's bad, they tell you rice is bad, they tell you to eat more fat, eat more protein. You know, if that were true, when you look to countries like Japan, where people eat lots of carbohydrates, you'd see fat, lethargic, sickly people. And when the Japanese moved to North America, they would get thinner and healthier.
The Japanese eat a lot of fish and some chicken.
They eat a little fish, lots of rice, lots of vegetables.
Yes.
We're talking about in comparison.
You just have to look at the world picture.
Yes. I agree.
So it just disturbs you a lot when people misinterpret your work?
To be honest, there are so many things in life that disturb me that this is really just one of the facts of life.
You are a very trim, healthy-looking man yourself. From all your scientific research, has it led you to a vegetarian diet?
No. I came by a vegetarian diet honestly, not through science.
But you are a vegetarian.
I am.
Well, I was right in one sense.
You're right in one.
There we go.
I came by it honestly at the age of 14 from humanitarian reasons.
Well, when we get back, we'll talk about that and also the health aspect of a vegetarian diet.
Don't go away. We will be right back.
You can learn English at home. Watch Hello Channel.
And welcome back. With me, Dr. David Jenkins, MD, PhD with St. Michael's Hospital, a leading researcher on nutrition, but the thing that caught our interest is an ethical vegetarian. My viewers have no idea what an ethical vegetarian is, I would guess. Most of them.
And at age 14, you decided.
Age 14, yes.
So tell us.
Oh, I see. So I've got to give you the story.
Oh,
well,
sure.
I'll give you the story very quickly then. An aunt of mine who was of a humanitarian persuasion led the charge, as it were, and convinced me that really I should be less of a hunter than I was. I used to do a lot of hunting. As a small child, I was bought a fairly powerful gun and went around doing terrible things to the environment and then bringing back my spoils. My father was a physician, and we then used to try and set up a sort of hospital to cure whatever damage I'd been doing. After a little while, an aunt of mine, as I said, who had been following Eastern religions and had come to the conclusion that this was the way of living, convinced me that I also should follow her. The final cutting point was when some small bantams I had as pets were delivered to us one Christmas as part of the Christmas feast.
Oh, that's too bad.
At that point, I thought that this is probably enough.
And she's right.
So she was right. She then went back to being an omnivore and left me carrying the torch.
Oh, you have been doing so ever since.
One of the first vegetarians I met, I was a resident. He was an intern. He was a pure vegetarian for ethical reasons, and he lived on Cokes and potato chips.
There you are. Yes, you can live very badly.
You don't have to be healthy.
You can live very badly. You can live extremely badly.
When did you make the transition from an ethical vegetarian to a healthy vegetarian?
Well, that
or
actually,
did you?
No,
does it
no,
have
that,
anything to do with the
that does
science
have a
now?
lot. That does actually have a lot to do with science.
Yes.
So there, you're quite correct. Before I was an unhealthy vegetarian, healthy enough to get protein, I suppose, and get B12, which was the other concern that my mother had, but otherwise not healthy. Saturated fat and refined carbohydrates was certainly in order. And I think that slowly the research has shown a direction in which one should go and try and make one's diet more healthy. So as you say, I think you can be either very healthy or unhealthy as a vegetarian. I think it allows one the two extremes.
Now you're in the circles of research scientists all around the world. Do you see progress? Do you see people in general heading towards a more plant-based diet?
I think that's been the advice. I mean, it was the last...
But are they doing it?
Are they doing it? Well, if we look at the fruit and vegetable consumption, we haven't made an enormous amount of progress with the advice that we've been giving there. So that's a pity. We have brought fat down a little, though, generally. We've certainly brought, I think, saturated fat down quite considerably. Some would worry that we're putting in saturated
like
fat.
Margarines and shortenings and so on.
There seems to be such a link health-wise to fats and diet and so many diseases that I think that's probably why.
The other concern is when we replace the fats, we replace it with simple sugars, like cookies and cakes, and that's another big concern.
So I think that we have to put the fibre back in the diet, and Dennis Burkitt was very, very early on an inspiration to many of us.
Me.
There you go, excellent. And Dennis was a wonderful man, and I think convinced us all with a minimum amount of science, but good judgment, I think, and a keen eye for what was happening around the world.
He was the first doctor who didn't stand up and just describe diseases to me. He explained that there was a cause based on his research in Africa where they didn't have the diseases that are common to us.
So when you say fiber, now exactly, let's make a list for everybody.
It's a short list.
Your potatoes?
It's a short list. It's all plant foods.
It's all plant foods.
Unrefined.
Is what you're saying.
Yes.
No animal food has fiber.
Okay.
Makes it real simple, yes.
Because we have so much of it, with fiber added into everything, and everybody's saying, oh, high fiber diet, but I don't think people really know what that means.
Well, there are some good fiber sources. I mean, the cereals are good fiber sources. Wheat and even wheat bran that people use is a good fiber source. And then there are other sources that people tend not to think so much of, and those are the legumes, the beans, the peas, beans, lentils. These were once part of even Western diets. Were rich in beans. Now people seem to think that they're poor man's food or prison fare. In fact, once I was accompanying someone taking some of our experimental diets through the hospital, and one of the porters stopped us and asked what we were carrying, because it looked like they had beans on it. And thought it was prison fare that we were dealing out now to patients. So I think that this, if you like, is one of the nutritional myths that we should get rid of. I mean, I think from classical antiquity, lentils and lentil soups and stews have been highly valued. In the Orient, soya is eaten as tofu without fibre, but they have a lot of fibre sources in terms of the vegetables, as you were commenting in an earlier program, in terms of the vegetables and the fruit, but especially the vegetables they eat, and even things like seaweed, which we wouldn't eat, but are eaten in Ireland, make cakes out of it. Around the world, we've given up a lot of the plant foods that we used to eat, and hopefully these will be added back into our diets as we find more evidence.
As we work with it more and more. But I think it's also important for people to, I mean, as someone like me, and you always give me such a hard time, but I think it's different for everybody, and it's each person's responsibility to find out what works for them and what keeps them most healthy, and to learn about everything, and then make choices instead of just relying on a doctor saying, add high fiber.
Well, it is, but you see, the point about it is, I think, that we've not really had the funding for the research in this area. If we had, I think we'd be a lot further ahead, and there'd be less of the uncertainties.
So the debate
You can't put a good diet in a pill and sell it to people. That's the problem.
Yes, and I find that it's not so much the problem, but that's part of the problem. You're right, because
if you could sell it as a drug, the miracle of a good diet and exercise is a drug, and you and I had the patent on to be the richest people on earth.
You're right.
We could buy Bill Gates.
It's true, because people want an easy way.
I think that there are other things that disturb me in that area, and it's probably worth airing it, because I think the public want to know why we haven't found out earlier on that oat bran was good for you, why we've had to wait so long.
Can you tell us quickly?
People want to know why, and I think the reason we haven't found out is because the statutory agencies and our colleagues on the scientific panels feel that they all eat. And these folk who come around with grants,
so they're not doing it
who asking for money to find out what people should eat.
We'll get them to change their diet, we'll solve that whole
problem. To a large extent, are really doing with what we all know about anyway. That's one thing. And the second thing, if I might just say so, is that I think that although we can make claims for drugs, no company, even if it produces healthy food, can make claims for its food. And that, to me, seems an unwarranted
bias.
With
us working hard on all the time, we'll
With the two of you, we'll be
fine.
Thank you very much for being here. And when we come back, we'll be cooking with my TV brother from the Waltons, John Walmsley. And we're going to make brownies, right, John?
With high fiber.
Hello. That's right, I said hello. I'm talking about an exciting new television channel that will change your life. My name is Ruth, and I want you to be one of the first to know about Hello Channel. Hello Channel is designed to teach you to speak English. Anyone can learn. We offer something for everyone. You'll see programming for children, teenagers, and adults, all on different levels. With Hello Channel, you'll hear, see, read, and speak English as you're watching entertaining television programs, making it easy to learn. If you've always wanted to learn English but haven't had a chance, Hello Channel is perfect for you. Start today, and remember, for a brighter future, just say hello.
I always loved my mother. Sure, we had a little disagreements every once in a while. She's probably pretty typical. But I remember one day, for some reason, I got really mad at her. I don't remember why. I just remember I said some things that shouldn't have been said. When my dad got home, I knew I was in trouble. But instead of getting mad at me, he taught me a lesson I'll never forget. The ball I was throwing was damaging the fans. My dad told me that harsh words can be even more destructive.
Life's most important lessons are best learned in the home. A message from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
It's Mary in the kitchen with the Johns. John Walmsley, my brother Jason on the Waltons, and I'm John. Today, what are we making?
We're going to be making brownies. McDougall brownies. Can you believe McDougall brownies?
I can't wait for
Yeah,
this.
right.
Sounds good to me.
But my brother, John, is a vegetarian, as is his daughter, Brighton. And I know that you had a question that you wanted to ask.
I did. My daughter has always been very healthy. She's 5.5 now. And unlike me, you can tell, I don't always talk like this, by the way. But anyway, recently she started to lose some hair. And we called her doctor, who said, well, I think she might need more zinc. And then other people have said, I think she needs more protein. And we're getting, conflicting stories.
They say that when they hear you're a vegetarian, don't they? The first thing they say is more protein. And then they're more sophisticated. They say more zinc. What kind of vegetarian is your daughter? Is she a pure vegetarian, or does she have her diet?
She does have dairy.
Well, that would be the first thing that I'd look toward, John, is the dairy protein. People get allergic reactions to dairy protein, and some are minor things. They get like stuffy nose, ear infections, asthma, bedwetting problems. But they can get more severe, and you can get what we call autoimmune diseases, where the body makes antibodies to the dairy protein that also attack the child's tissues. Attacks the pancreas and gives the childhood kind of diabetes, type 1 diabetes. And it'll also attack the hair follicles, and they'll lose their hair. So I would first start thinking about dairy and getting out of the diet. It's absolutely unnecessary for a child to have cow's milk. Of course, human breast milk is absolutely essential. But cow's milk for a child is not only not necessary, but it's unhealthy.
Now, what would you suggest as a substitute for that?
Well, for cereal in the morning, for example, you might think about soy milks or rice milks. They tolerate those very well. For drinking, I think you can't beat the beverage water for drinking. Absolutely ideal. And if you think that you can tolerate some sugary things, some fruit juices would be okay also. And you can substitute easily when you make baked goods, and like, for example, our brownies. You can substitute a soy product, soy milk or rice milk for the dairy. It's a real important step, and it's a hard one for people because there's been so much money spent on convincing people that they should feed their kids like they were baby cows. They're not. They're children.
Right. Now, how about in cooking? We're making brownies, and normally with brownies you've got milk, you've got eggs.
Are you ready for this task,
Yes,
Mary?
let's
Okay.
go. I'm going to roll up my sleeves.
All right. Okay. Let's see. Did you get the oven preheated?
Yes, the oven is
350
preheated.
degrees. All right.
We got it.
So we've got ingredients that we have to combine. We've got ingredients like 1 cup unbleached flour, 2/3 cup reduced fat cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon baking powder, 1 teaspoon baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now those are your
Now
dries.
we're putting all those in after.
Combine dry ingredients in one bowl. Every one of those goes in a bowl.
Okay.
Now you also have wet ingredients, and you have to mix the wet ingredients like this product here. This is a wonderful product. Where you're showing them that this is called Wonder Slim. This is Parade prunes, and it acts as a fat substitute. So that's how you get the brownies to turn out so well without any added fat.
That creates the texture.
It gives the smoothness, the moisture that you're looking for. And you use about half of this that you would regular oil in your cooking. Or you can also use mashed bananas. There are other substitutes for oil. So we mixed Wonder Slim and sugar together in a separate bowl. Now remember, this is a dessert, so we're going to have a little sugar.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Stir in the vanilla.
And here's the vanilla.
Okay. Now you mix egg replacer.
Right.
All right. Now this is nothing like eggs. This is egg replacer is a mixture of flours, egg replacer and water together with a whisk. You've done that. Okay. Add the sugar mixture and stir to combine. Okay. All right. Now you take the wet ingredients, add them to the dry ingredients, and
You
mix.
want to start pouring those in, Walmsley?
Yeah.
All right. Did you push you around on the show too?
Yeah.
All the time.
All right.
Was I the bossy one? No.
I thought you were the prissy one.
I was the prissy one.
The prissy bossy one.
Do not overmix. That's one of the important rules. Sometimes you do that and you get lumps and things in it. Okay, and then after you get it mixed just enough, what we're going to do is we're going to pour it.
Do this in our pan?
You know, it would be better to use non-stick pans, which we have. Let's do that and keep all the fat out.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to pour it in the non-stick pan.
Okay.
And we'll bake it for 30 minutes.
Okay, in just 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But we do kind of have to get it to the point where it's mixed, and just make sure you get yours with our television time. We don't have time to mix it completely,
Well,
but we will just pour it in here.
I wanted to add something too. You know, some people are kind of leery of sugar.
Yes.
And I found that there's a product you can get at health food stores, which is a fruit sweetener, and it looks just like a jar of honey. And I made pumpkin pie last Thanksgiving with that, and it was great.
Yes.
I didn't miss the sugar at all. So if you have a problem with that, that would be a good solution.
And you made it with tofu, right?
I did. I made a tofu pumpkin pie.
Well, that's our favorites for holiday time is tofu pumpkin pie. So that's pretty good, Mary.
That's pretty good. We don't have to mix it in. Okay,
Can we go right to the...
Right in. There we go. Now pretend these are going in the oven.
And 30 minutes
Yes.
later.
And 30 minutes later, magic!
Voila!
I have to have one of these.
Oh, I'd like to, John.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, our
Your guest
guest.
first.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
My John
Thanks.
reminds me of my manners. Very yummy.
Tastes like the real thing,
Very
doesn't it?
yummy. Cheers.
Yep.
Very moist.
And much healthier.
Delicious.
They are. They're very, very moist.
No dairy. Therefore, do real well with your daughter.
Great.
You know,
She'd probably love to make these too. It'd be fun.
She would. She loves to cook.
and at her young age, you and your wife are still in control, so it shouldn't be any problem at all making the change, should it?
For at least another 5 minutes.
Right.
You know, the great thing about being an adult is you can have your dessert before lunch.
That's right.
I like that.
We'll be right back in the studio right after this break.
Not soy?
Hello.
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 And thanks to Dr. David Jenkins and to John Walmsley. Your brother makes really good brownies, high-fiber brownies.
High fiber brownies. He's very good in the kitchen, isn't he?
He's good in the
You could
kitchen.
learn something from him, John.
I need to be a better cook. I have to admit, boiling water is a chore for me.
Oh, I know.
And those
Well,
brownies, that's a real good recipe to get
you know,
somebody
I have
started.
to say, John, I liked those brownies. They were very yummy.
I liked the whole show. I'd like to tell you that.
Yes.
Hey, listen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
it
you.
was
Bye-bye,
a lot of fun
everybody.
for us.
We'll see you
Bye-bye.
next time.